he's going to go down to Tampa. And he hit me up and he's like, would you come down? And I was like, I've been waiting for you. I've been waiting for you to make a move.
Holy guacamole! He breaks the record. He's got his 23rd touchdown in the postseason from Tom Brady. Caught ball, touchdown Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Bucs win, Bucs win, Bucs win the Super Bowl.
Robbie G. Congrats, baby. I'll see you later.
See you later, like next year's Super Bowl. All right, Max, a big storyline this offseason was regarding the Patriots' success. Was it more Brady? Was it more Belichick? Well, Belichick missed the playoffs, and Brady just won another ring. So what should we think about Bill Belichick today?
Oh, listen, it raises questions about Belichick. It just does. Mm-hmm. I know that Brady left the cupboard bare. I made that argument. And I always thought it was more Belichick. I was sure it was more Belichick. Mm-hmm. But now I have to admit, I have to wonder. Was it, in fact, more Belichick? Clearly, I wasn't giving Brady enough credit. And even though Joe Montana went to the right situation in Kansas City after the Niners, including with the coaching, and got him to the AFC Championship game, see, he's not a system quarterback. It's not just Bill Walsh. Brady just won the Super Bowl in year one. Now, were the Bucs loaded? Yep, they sure were. Everywhere you look, they were loaded. Okay? Did he leave the cupboard bare for Belichick? Was he coaching under very difficult circumstances and still did a nice job, 7-9? Yes, he did. But we don't have 1,000 seasons to play out, to run perfect experiments to see who was who. This is pretty much as good as you could ask for. Brady's on a new team. Belichick's coaching without him. And by the way, if anything, the coach has the advantage because when the coach is older, he should still be good. Brady's 43. So the answer, does this affect Belichick's legacy? The answer is yes. He has to now win without Brady. He can't just, that's a good coaching job. He went 8-8 this season. Nope. He's got to make deep playoff runs. He should win a ring without Brady before all is said and done, or his legacy, the great debate, is it more Belichick or Brady? Shockingly to me, will be won by those who said, no, it was more Brady. Yes, this is a big deal.
It's a big deal, but not for Bill Belichick, the coach. I have no questions about Bill Belichick, the coach, because in the sport of football, it takes more than just a quarterback to win it, as we learned last night. Mm-hmm. You consider what happened on defense, you consider what happened on special teams, and you have an overseer that allocates responsibility to other people, the people he picks to put in charge, whether it's offensive coordinator, defensive line coach, linebackers coach, quarterback coach, et cetera, et cetera. You're the head coach. You oversee all of that. And Bill Belichick is a 6-time champion as a head coach, a 2-time champion as a coordinator, a guy that's been to 11 Super Bowls in his career. I refuse to insult that man by questioning the coach that is Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick, the GM, however, is an entirely different conversation. You could have had DK Metcalf or A.J. Brown instead of somebody like N'Keal Harry. You could have had a Damian Harris, for example, who's been impressive, instead of a Sony Michel who can ball. I'm not trying to knock Sony Michel. When you look at the quarterback position, forget the Jimmy Garoppolo deal, because we understand that. I'm sorry, I think Jacoby Brissett at this point in time in his career is better than Cam Newton. You could have still had him, somebody who was better, younger, fresher legs, not beaten up. Age and attrition hadn't kicked in, and on top of it all, he was familiar with the New England system. All of those things come into play. And when you don't have those things at your disposal because you've made a decision as a GM, that is bad enough. But when it gets incredibly egregious, y'all, is when, as I reported and I told you last year, Tom Brady would have stayed if he believed he was wanted by Bill Belichick. Owner Robert Kraft would have found a way to make it happen if Bill Belichick has shown enough respect and enough affection for Tom Brady to let him know you're wanted, you're valued. But that was not the case. So Tom Brady was hell-bent on going elsewhere to prove what his value was. And when you listen to these guys on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers speak about Tom Brady, it's not just guys on the offensive side of the ball. It wasn't just Leonard Fournette. It wasn't just Antonio Brown. You talk about Shaq Barrett. You talk about Devin White and others. You talk about Ndamukong Suh, who was interviewed by Greeny this morning on Get Up. And you talk about the coach that is Bruce Arians. And you hear everybody collectively speak about the leadership ability of this dude and how he galvanizes everybody. What you have is a coach who's also the GM in New England that selectively decided to ignore that component. In other words, this is my program. We're going to do it my way. The hell with all of that. And when you do that to somebody that old who's produced for you, and somehow you missed the leadership component that he brings to the team, and how he's able to squeeze out whatever somebody else has left in them. Then you think about Gronk, who wanted to retire and was shivering on stage one day talking about, you have no idea what I was going through. But now not only does he come back, shines in the Super Bowl, but says he ain't thinking about retiring.
They look like they're having fun.
They look like they're having fun.
Brady, the GM, is pretty darn good, too. He brought back Leonard Fournette, all these players. All 31 points that were scored by the Bucs guys were all players that were not on the Bucs in 2019 who went 7-9. They all came to play with Tom Brady.
But if you're an executive and your responsibility is to identify and then allocate responsibility to somebody else, and you miss that, that's bad.
All right.
That's
this conversation to be continued. Brady, MJ, Gretzky. Did Brady prove he's the greatest in team third down for 46 yards, 0 TDs, and an INT for the entire game? He had 0 touchdowns and 2 total interceptions. It was not his night. Patrick.
They beat us pretty good. The worst I think I've been beaten in a long time. I wasn't getting the ball out on time. The receivers were running routes, not to exactly where I thought they were going to be at. And the offensive line, they did good. They were good at sometimes, and sometimes they let guys through. And when you're playing a good defense like that, you got to be on the same page as the offense, and we weren't today. And that's why we played so bad.
Max, tell me this: do you think his Super Bowl?
That's any legend. If you recall, Molly,
yes,
on numerous occasions, I've sat across from this man, whether literally or figuratively, virtually, digitally, whatever the case may be,
it's a pandemic.
Be a satellite, and I have said, what about the weapons? Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, McCole Hardman, etc. Well, guess what? The question was answered, because when they struggled to get open last night or struggled to catch passes, how did Patrick Mahomes look? He did not look good. He did not look good, Max. This defense was surreal. If you recall, we saw a beatdown similar to this when Seattle, the Legion of Boom, put it on Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos. They were up by 29 in like the third quarter. The Legion of Boom was stronger. They were faster. They were quicker. They were more physical. They were playing smash mouth. And what did they say? They talked about how Denver would engage in the trickery. You know, sneak plays, trick plays, etc., all that gimmicky stuff. How do I remember this? Because I know my brother Cam Chancellor. He and I spoke after that Super Bowl. He was like, yeah, it's about attacking your fears. Peyton Manning could instill fear into a lot of people, but it wasn't in us. We were going to go at them, and we were going to dare them to play that kind of smash mouth football. We were going to get in their face. What did Devin White say post-game last night after going against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs? This is what we were going to do. We weren't giving you anything over the top. We were going to make you methodically go about the business of beating us. We were going to keep you in front of us and dare you to play some real damn football. What happened? Kansas City was thrown off kilter. Now, of course, offensive line, we know that. Of course, I pointed out how Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce dropped passes, McCole Hardman couldn't get open to save his life. I got all of that. All was basically ignored. Why? Because they said, we're not going to blitz you. What we're going to do is we're going to send 4 after you. And oh, by the way, if you're Patrick Mahomes, what are you doing? Your first option is Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce. Your second option is Travis Kelce or Tyreek Hill. You're not going to have but so much time to get to you go through your progressions and to get to the third or fourth option. We're daring you to try to pull that off, knowing that you couldn't. And in the end, what it comes down to is this, Max. Even though we still recognize Patrick Mahomes being the great quarterback that he is, but the issue is the GOAT. All of that stuff is over. It is over, because here's the deal. It's not just about 7 Super Bowl championships to 1. Forget all that. Here's what it's about. No matter what you do in your career, you lost to the man considered the GOAT who beat you at age 43. we will consistently remember that encounter.
Big hill to climb, but we're going to
we're
take that
gonna
later in
debate
the
it,
show.
yeah.
When we talk about it, we're not going to talk about he lost because Brady has lost.
We're going to get into that. Don't worry.
We're going to get into that later in the show. This is what I say. This is what I'd say. The reason you can send 4 all game is it was the same as a blitz, only no one was open. They couldn't stop. Like, it's one thing to say, well, what is Mahomes going to do when his guys are covered? And he has no time to throw the ball. What did he do? As I mentioned, he hit 2 receivers in the face, right in the face, in the end zone with passes. Does he need to catch the ball too? The fact of the matter is the offensive line really not being there. They didn't have their starters, their best players on the line.
Fisher, Schwartz,
That, to me, that's the story of the game. Those guys, Fisher and Schwartz, are not just there okay because they're the best guys on the line because they play the tackle positions. As I keep mentioning, Mitch Schwartz was all NFL, all second-team NFL for the decade, according to Pro Football Focus. Fisher was a #1 overall pick. He's been to multiple Pro Bowls. These guys are Pro Bowl caliber tackles that were gone, and it was going against a great defense, the offensive line. So they were completely overmatched. Mahomes was pressured more than any quarterback in the history of the Super Bowl, and he was blitzed almost less than any quarterback in the history of the Super Bowl.
But what I'm saying,
what do you want him to do?
Listen, what I'm saying to you, Max, is I am not refuting your points if the issue is that they lost, because we understand that wasn't his fault. I'm saying that when you're Mahomes and people are bloviating about you to the degree that they have, you can't go into the Super Bowl and get destroyed. Tom Brady has, how many Super Bowl losses does he have on his career? I believe it's 3.
Yeah.
He lost to the Giants 17-14.
Yeah.
He lost to the Giants 21-17.
Yep.
And he lost to the Philadelphia Eagles 41-33 when he threw for 505 yards. I'm saying that when you look at Mahomes, right now, never questioning his greatness, understanding the Elways have lost, the Peyton Mannings have lost before, Brett Favre lost before.
Steven, think about what
when
you're saying for a second.
you get beat down,
Think about what you're saying for a second.
that doesn't get glossed over.
Think about what you're saying for a second, real quick. Tom Brady, in that first Super Bowl loss, scored 17 points, right? He had Randy Moss and
14, I think it was.
maybe it was 14 points, right? 14 points. 14, that's right.
Yeah.
Because before the game, he was saying, we're only going to score 17 points.
laughed.
I laughed at it. I used to play that on New York radio all the time.
And laughed.
If you would have scored 17, you'd be in overtime. 14 points with the greatest offense ever. That was the greatest offense in the history of football to that point. They were undefeated through the season, wound up with 14 points. That's so much worse. I mean, that's so much better. Hold on. Than Mahomes with 9 points with no offensive line.
Nope.
The fact of the matter is, Mahomes can't play defense.
To be continued, guys. We're talking about Super Bowl all show. Let me just get in a break here really quickly. I do want to mention in his young career, Patrick Mahomes has 2 playoff losses, both to Tom Brady-led teams.